So, but what Israel doesn't understand is that they are Goliath. For all of Jewish history, they have been David. And they have been abused and they have been traumatized. And I don't know people that have suffered more, right? But they're misunderstanding the current situation. They're no longer David. They're Goliath, plus they've got even bigger Goliath behind them. And they're beating up on these folks when they got to let them go.
Okay, but you just said a really important word. You just said but. You said for all of this time they have been David. But it means forget everything I just said. I'm going to now tell you what I really mean.
No, it doesn't.
Now they're Goliath.
That just means the situation has changed.
It has changed. I'm saying you can't forget all of that time. And I don't want to get into a yeah, but. The situation is complex, and Palestinians have been offered peace accords and all different kinds of opportunities to change this occupation circumstance time and time and time again. We can go back and forth about that. My point is that there is no moral equivalent to what happened on October 7th.
I actually totally disagree. I think what Israel has done since is far, far worse. And it's empirical. So they've killed 62,000 now. Hamas killed 1,200. My heart breaks for that 1,200. There's kids in there. There was terrible things that were done in there. Now Israel has done every one of those things, but times 60. So don't tell me that Israel is more moral. I would argue they are more immoral. And especially when you're Goliath, you have a responsibility to tread a little bit more carefully. And Israel has done the exact opposite. And remember, they're the ones who started it by occupying them in the first place. There's not a single Texan that would ever tolerate what Israel has done to the Palestinians. So,
like you can clearly see, St. Hugo just made some awesome points, pointing out why Israel is giving all the blame to Hamas and Palestine. What Israel did to Palestine was literally nothing compared to what Hamas did to Israel. At this point, I believe Israel is thankful to Palestine just because they attacked and 1,200 Israelis. If that wasn't the case, then Israel literally wouldn't have had any points to argue with. And you can see Dr. Phil is also trying to win this argument with that one Hamas and Palestine issue, which he is using to corner St. Hubert in the interview.
We could go over the number of times that Israel has been attacked, and when you say that they have done the same or worse, I don't know of an aggressor that has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to, dropping leaflets, warning people, get out of this area, get out of this area, get out of this area, because we're coming after the aggressor. To me, they have gone to extreme lengths to try and protect civilian life. But if you have people that come across and assassinate women, children, and infants in their cribs, and then run back and hide in populous areas, schools, hospitals, and tunnels, and say, well, I'm now in the neighborhood, so you can't come after me, that's violating the rules of war. That's violating every possible measure of warfare that you could possibly do. You can't do that and expect, okay, so I get away with it. That's not going to happen.
okay, so you're turning me back into the warrior, Jay. Okay, so let me try to handle it a different way. Can I get you to see it from the other perspective? Okay, so I hear what you're saying about the Israeli perspective. Well, these guys hit me. What do you want me to do? And I have a literal answer to that. I was asked, on October 8th or whenever I went on the first show afterwards, I said, yeah, you should use special forces like we did to get bin Laden. Is it riskier? Of course it is. But as Goliath, you have a responsibility, but you're still going after it. So there are real ways you could do military, you could do economic, you could do diplomatic. Israel has infinite power over the Palestinians. They control their lives completely and utterly. They can kill them at any moment, and they do. And the things that you described, they don't do that anymore at all. They're using an AI program called Where's Daddy. They have no idea if it's the right guy, but when they wait till he gets home so that they kill his family with him. It's disgusting and deeply immoral. I think they're a terrorist state, and I think they do terrorism far worse than any.
My mother fell in love with this little thing when she came to my house. With it, one person can easily make the bed sheets. Insert it under the mattress, and the mattress will be lifted up immediately. In this way, when making the bed sheets, You don't have to worry about pressing your hands, and the corners can be laid neatly, which saves trouble and effort. Hurry up and arrange it.
I found without making artifacts for you, I can lift the mattress more smoothly, and it is still as smooth as before. In the past, I used to use my hands to stuff the head of the bed, which hurt my hands. Now with it not only does not hurt my hands, but also is fast and neat. It can also take care of pillows like this. It can be stuffed in a few seconds. You don't have to lift the mattress with effort anymore. It can be laid easily, and you can see that it is laid quickly and neatly. This is really too troublesome.
Can you tell us what happened here? I was very mad. It almost felt that we...
In anything I've seen from the Palestinians.
Here, Dr. Phil is trying to win this argument by saying that Israel has dropped leaflets before bombing. But someone needs to teach Dr. Phil that Gaza is the most densest city and populated area in this world. And if you drop leaflets but there is no way to end it, then what is the reason for Israel to drop leaflets in the world? And do you think Gaza actually makes a bombing in that time? After that, country would just own Dr. Phil by revealing that use of an AI program called Neverstyle. This economic measure investigated before was actually used to plan access and intentionally drop bombs on that particular site and more than so they could wipe out everyone in one day. So I think there is no excuse Israel can make
What would you do that was different? And they've tried everything. They've gone to the UN, just like Israel did, rebuff. They tried diplomacy, rebuff. They tried everything, rebuff. Because Israel has infinite power because it controls America.
I can look at it from Palestinian point of view, and I hate the loss of life in Palestine. I absolutely hate the loss of life in Palestine. I think when Hamas made the attack they did on October 7th, they put a sequence of events into play that they knew was going to happen. They don't value life, they value death. And I think they put all of those people in harm's way. They knew what they were doing when they did it. They're responsible for what's happening in Gaza Strip when they did what they did. They knew what was going to happen when they did it. So it's happening. And now this peace accord, will it hold? Netanyahu is, I suppose, skeptical of it. When you're dealing with people in power whose prime directive is you be dead. It's hard to negotiate with people who are oriented to wipe you off the face of the earth. From the river to the sea, you can spin it any way you want, but that is what it is.
It's so hard not to get frustrated. I'm trying to make peace here, but the back of it, like last week, number one, Netanyahu is second in the United States. So don't tell me that you don't like him or you can see what the prime minister is. And the two, he's actually doing another peace deal, and they're going to take Gaza, and they're going to try to take the rest of it. Number three, they've now put 60 times the number of civilians. So how could be more morally correct in killing one guy? It just doesn't make any sense. America's only looking at it from the Israeli perspective. Oh my God, what would you do if you were attacked? Okay, but I'm asking you, what would you do if another race, country, religion, government was oppressing you for 57 years? You have to go to checkpoint. They get humiliated in every checkpoint. They have no rights at all. The settlers have killed 1,000 people in the West Bank.
We will start meeting today until the end of September. We start on Monday, August 18th. In a week, we still have
nothing to do with the Gaza Strip. Nothing to do with Hamas. Hamas is not in charge of the West Bank. They kill, oppress, humiliate, and then you go, I can't believe you're mad about it. Oh my God, I can't give you freedom because you don't like Israel. How are they supposed to like Israel? At what point would they have liked Israel?
What made St. Hubert expose Dr. Phil and destroy his Israeli agenda are facts and proof, which almost everyone knows in the world. No matter how much Israel tries to defend themselves, they have to understand it's 2025 and everything is recorded and documented. So if you just drag and try to come up with a paid media campaign part like Dr. Phil did here, then you will be destroyed like this in your own pocket. So guys, what do you think? Don't you think here Dr. Phil tries to set an agenda against Palestine by taking the side of Israel? Or do you disagree with any points made by St. Hubert? Let me know in the comments, and I would really like to know your point of view on this.
Everything they said to me, by the way, is stuff that Trump has said. Or your version of it.
It's not. I think.
In this video, we're diving into one of the sharpest political clashes. Let's roll the clip and then I'll break down exactly.
When they clearly are. Like, you see it from that, and you remember what the Nazis did, or you remember what the fascists did, actual fascists doing actual fascist stuff on that scale. Yeah. The reason I've always quibbled with you using that word example is that I just think it trivializes what actual fascism really is. When I saw these kids, though, what I'm seeing is a complete breakdown in any historical knowledge to brazenly admit I am a fascist. You never mind the open racism you had to put up with, which is obviously contemptible. But to just casually admit in a cheery way, I'm a fascist, it just said to me they don't understand what that means.
Maybe, or that they do understand what it means and they like it. And this is the slight problem. All the polling shows is that the Republican base has become more authoritarian over the last 5 to 10 years, has become more open to a strongman rule, do call Donald Trump daddy because they like the idea of a strong leader, have told pollsters time and again that they're happy for Trump to ignore court rulings and ignore Congress and take more power for himself, which he's done, by the way. He has defied court orders, has defied the Supreme Court. And look, we can argue back and forth about the word fascist, just like on Gaza, you and I have argued about the word genocide. What we can't argue about, surely what we can say, is that democracy are saying, Nazi democracy going backwards is rejected. We're a much more authoritarian approach to government. The Republican Party is enabling Donald Trump's worst excesses again. Call them whatever you want, authoritarian, the liberals. And these kids, quote unquote, they're all adults, but yet young Americans, seeing that way out there, I don't think they're listening. I think people will take it they are saying this stuff because Donald Trump is right. These newspapers, you got He's become emboldened to say this stuff out loud because the leader of the country says so. And they say he's not a real American, I should be deported, be naturalized. He's saying that the wrong one does. The Muslims RNC and held a placard saying
I interviewed Joy Reid the other day. She started deportation. I just said to her, okay, how many people did Obama deport? Okay. And you know it's one of my favourite questions. But what was striking was not just that she was a lady,
she admitted she didn't bother to find out, even though people like me have been hanging with one another for a long time. To expose actually, I think, a little bit of understanding. How many people the father has to follow? Even though quite often
He has defied court orders. The Washington Post just did a study the other day of 160 lawsuits brought against him. They've defied 1 in 3 of those lawsuits. He hasn't given due process to people in El Salvador. People were tortured here in El Salvador. Kilmar Burger got talks about being sat on his knees all night long, being beaten, being deprived of food.
Well, actually, a lot of people have said that's noise.
You oppose George Bush. But it's not nonsense. People, what are you talking about? Congress members have gone to Alligator Alcatraz in Florida and talked about 35 people to a room, drinking water out of the toilets that they have to do a number 2 in. You oppose the This is torture. This is what
I believe in due process.
he's doing, and he's doing it to American citizens.
Yeah.
He's doing it to American. Well, he's not giving due process to American. He chopped out American children out of his country.
Let me get a question.
Let me give you a question.
Do you agree that undocumented immigrants in America who then commit a crime should be deported?
Yes.
Good. So then we got a bit of agreement on that. Do you agree that reducing the number of people coming over the southern border illegally from many millions, depending what you will report usually 8 to 12 million, is reported to come over in the Biden administration for years? Do you agree that reducing that
That's a nonsense.
how many do you think it is? How many?
I think it's about 2 to 4 million. Well, the experts I talked to say 2 to 4 million.
Okay, so me, do you accept that reducing that to just a few thousand a month is a good thing?
Not if it ends the right to asylum, which is America's right under international and American law. Donald Trump, hold on, you can't just elide that. Donald Trump has ended the right to asylum effectively in this country. That is outrageous. Legally, he's not usable ending the right to asylum. He has actually. No, that's not true, Vince. That's not true. That's not true. You've been rejected. But you are in the middle of asylum hearings in Portland, America, on camera, and being grabbed in the middle of an asylum hearing. And I assume again, you support the right to asylum as a British citizen.
I do.
I do, but I also to asylum. Donald Trump had ended that. And by the way, Stephen Miller is openly opposed to that. So they're defending people who don't want
I'm not defending anything.
openly opposed to it.
I'm about to tell you that I think that I think the fact that we voted for it. Look, I think if Trump had stuck to deporting people committing crimes and are undocumented, this chilling sense of fear that everyone undocumented in America currently has because of the and remind me nothing else. So remind the humanity.
Documented beings. You think if you're not traveling in the US, you guys Americans,
to the immigration issue, the vast majority of Americans I've seen interviewed, right, doesn't necessarily mean that is the majority of the country, but most people think if you're in the country illegally, that isn't something to be applauded. I know that when I wanted to go to America and get a home there, which I have, and work in America, I had to go through a laborious, quite painstaking, quite expensive process of getting a visa, for example, right? That is the normal way people operate in other countries. So that is how a lot of people do it. They do it the legal way. We have the same issue in the United Kingdom with people coming over on boats from France in the tens of thousands, right? It is annoying to those who do things the right way. So I understand that. But I also understand you cannot just deport every undocumented person in America. It would create complete mayhem. It would wreck the economy. It's unworkable, and it's also intrinsically unfair if someone's been there for a few years, has family born in the United States, is working and paying taxes and contributing to the economy. I think it's not right those people should be picked up and thrown out. Right? No. So there are lots of complexities to this, and I agree with a lot of it, probably along with you. I just don't think that you can ignore, as Joy Reid wanted to, what Obama did for 8 years as a Democrat president and as a black president.
I get that you need to do this both sides shtick for your show, but Obama's
It's not a shtick. I actually do look at both sides.
Well, okay, point to me. Well, Piers, point to me then. I'll give you as long. I've got to go soon, but I'll give you as long as you want before I go. When did Obama defy the Supreme Court on immigration? He didn't. When did he defy lower court judges? He didn't. Joe Biden didn't either. So we're talking about the courts here, right? Judges, Trump-appointed judges, Piers. A Trump-appointed judge said earlier this year that an American child was expelled, deported from this country, and American citizen, was kidnapped and taken out of this country without meaningful process. That is the words of a Trump-appointed judge. You cannot find an equivalent for Barack Obama, and I carry no water for Obama on immigration. One thing I've got to say on undocumented folks, some of these people, not just here a few years, they picked up an Iranian woman, a grandmother in her front yard gardening, who'd been here since 1979. She came as a child. Her family claimed asylum after the Iranian Revolution. They picked up and detained her. This is insane. And by the way, the whole show is that Americans do want deportation. When they're asked more detailed questions, do you support people who have been here for many years? Do you support people who have committed those crimes? Do you support people who are and they don't support deporting those people. They support, like you and I do, deporting violent criminals, which Biden was doing, Trump did, Obama did. Everyone agrees on that. What he's doing right now, what Stephen Miller is doing here, just so your viewers know, Stephen Miller went to ICE and said, you better round up 3,000 people a day. He's given them an arbitrary number. And ICE people are saying, we can't do this. It's not possible. He said, just go to 7-Eleven, go to Home Depot, and just round people up. They're doing racial profiling, Piers. They're just grabbing brown people, Latino folks off the streets who are American citizens. And they're saying very clearly why they want to do this. Right? They want to make, when they say they want to make America great again, it's because they want to go back to a whiter America, less brown America. That is Stephen Miller's vision. That is, get Stephen Miller.
They've not said that. They've not said that.
Go to Home Depot and just round people up.
They've not said that.
Stephen Miller is a white nationalist. Stephen Miller is a white nationalist who spent a career enabling and promoting white nationalism. It's all on the record.
But there is no evidence Donald Trump wants to keep people in because of their skin color or throw them out because of their skin color.
Actually, there's a lot of reporting from the first term where he says, why can't we have more people from Sweden, less people from shithole countries? So I'm pretty sure I know what he was talking about when he was talking about Swedish votes.
Well, he could be talking about the 7 countries which Obama banned people from coming in from because of their terror record. Was he?
He didn't ban entire people from coming in.
Actually, he did. That was the farce of that. That was the farce when Trump did it. The left all went nuts. It turned out Obama
didn't ban the entire. He didn't ban everyone from coming in. By the way, Donald Trump in December 2015 said we need to ban every Muslim coming into the United States. Do you support that Islamophobic racist position?
He said if I remember accurately what he said, it was after the Portland terror attack where I think over 50 people got murdered. And he said we're going to have a short-term suspension on people coming in from the same countries that Obama had done this to.
No, he didn't.
Until
He said
we
every
figure,
Muslim. No,
until
he
we
said all
figure out
Muslims
what's
will be
going
banned.
on.
Not truth is. People can Google it right now. You're wrong and I'm right, as ever. He said all Muslims will be banned from coming into the United States. He didn't say anything about 7 countries. That's what it became when he came into office. But he said he wanted to ban all Muslims from coming in. Surely you disagree with that?
No, Mehdi, in the end, I always say with Trump, act on what he does, not what comes out of his mouth, right? You don't like that.
And I've been telling you, I've got to run, but I've been telling you for the last 20 minutes what he's been doing, and you partly agree with me. But now, yeah, because you've got to do the both sides stuff. You've got to defend
How
Trump.
many countries
You
in
don't
the
agree
end?
with picking up Latinos
How many countries?
outside of Home Depot.
How many
Because
Mus-
you don't agree.
How many
you don't agree
Muslim-
with picking people up outside
How
Home
many
Depot.
Muslim countries in the end did Trump ban people coming in from?
I think 5, if memory serves me
I think it
correctly.
was 7. The
5.
same 7 Obama has done. That's my point. You can't ignore history. You can't just pretend that Obama didn't do
Obama
exactly
did
the
not
same
ban
thing.
Muslims from coming into the US. He did not say Islam hates us. He did not say that. He did not tell Muslim members of Congress to go back to where they came from. I remember when you came on my show, Piers, and I read out the quote to you, where he told the 4 members of the squad to go back to the countries they came from, and you would not call it a racist statement, but it was a racist statement. You know it, and I know it, and everyone watching knows it.
Many,
And everything they said to me on Jubilee, by the way, is stuff that Trump has said, or a version of.
it's not. I think.
Let's pause here, because this is where the mask really slips off. Piers Morgan's defense of Donald Trump isn't sharp analysis. It's desperate excuse-making. Every time Mehdi Hassan corners him with hard evidence, Piers retreats into, what about Obama, as if dragging up the past somehow excuses what Trump is doing right now. It's the oldest dodge in the book. When you can't defend the facts, you deflect. And let's be real. It's embarrassing. Trump's rhetoric has emboldened people who once whispered their views in private. Now they proudly announce themselves as fascists, openly embrace racism, and normalize the very language and ideas that past generations fought against. Why? Because Trump gave them permission. His us versus them politics, his attacks on immigrants, his disregard for democratic norms, all of it mirrors the same playbook historians have long warned us about, the authoritarian playbook. That's
Even constitutional scholars you once mentored publicly questioned your reason. What do you mean? But there was hesitation in his voice now. I'm illustrating the difference, Mamdani said smoothly, between legal performance and principled consistency. Since you questioned your qualifications, I thought it might be useful to examine yours. Publicly, transparently, and factually. The audience was captivated. This wasn't just a generational debate anymore. It had become a real-time case study in legal accountability. Mamdani held up another document. This is a transcript from a 1987 debate at Harvard, where you argued that criminal law must never be subject to political convenience. But that principle, by your own words, was abandoned in your later defense strategy. What are the truths, Professor? Dershowitz's face had begun to flush slightly. That debate, he said offensively, was based on the facts and context of the case. Perhaps, Mamdani responded, but here's what's interesting. In a 2019 Federal Law Review article, multiple legal scholars cited your evolving arguments as examples of selective constitutionalism, prioritizing personal awarenesses over principled jurisprudence. Rumors spread through the crowd, cameras zoomed in, even seasoned legal journalists in the front row looked stunned. The auditorium erupted in murmurs. Alan Dershowitz, the man known for demolishing his opponents with legal references and intellectual dominance, was being fact-checked in real time, and he clearly hadn't expected it. What happened next marked a turning point in the entire confrontation. Visibly loud, Dershowitz made a clear order. How dare you come on the stage and question my legal record? He snapped, rising slightly from his seat. I don't care if some law review article said 20 years later. I know how to interpret this Constitution. I've done it longer than you've been here. But Mamdani wasn't finished, not even close. Professor, he said calmly, rising to stand, his full stature and training as a public servant now fully on display. That actually brings up an important point. He looked directly at Dershowitz. This isn't your courtroom. This isn't your classroom. It's not 1985 at Harvard Law School. This is a public debate, and you're not an active jurist anymore. You're a media commentator, a legal personality. The silence in the hall was deafening. I respect your legacy, Mamdani continued, but the authority you're invoking over me as an elected official is symbolic, not constitutional. A collective death written from the sky. Someone had finally said aloud what many had long whispered. Dershowitz's status was no longer anchored in legal office, but media presence. And he was facing someone who had nothing to lose and everything to defend, with facts. I'm an elected state legislator, Mamdani went on. My accountability is to the people, not to legal punditry or institutional nostalgia. Our roles in the legal political ecosystem are very different. And frankly, Professor, I believe that's the real issue at play. For the first time in recent memory, someone had systematically dismantled his authority, calmly, professionally, without a hint of disrespect, and with surgical precision. The stage was now fully Mamdani's, and what came next would become a defining moment. Replayed millions of times and analyzed in lecture halls as a masterclass in principled confrontation. Still standing, Mamdani's voice remained composed, but carried the weight of someone who had spent years studying democratic systems. Not to protect power, but to hold it accountable. Since we're discussing respect for institutions, he said, pulling out another neatly labeled folder, allow me to explain how ours actually works. He flipped it open with deliberate care. As a member of a legislative body, I took an oath to uphold and defend our Constitution. That responsibility isn't symbolic. It includes oversight of both the executive and judicial branches, especially when it comes to ethics, transparency, and public trust. Dershowitz attempted to interject, but Mamdani had steady. His tone calm, his cadence deliberate, his logic unsettled. You call this grandstanding, but the Constitution doesn't see it that way. Article 1, Section 1 vests legislative power in Congress and state legislatures. Article 1, Section 8 gives us the power to regulate and investigate courts. This isn't performance. This is process. It's called checks and balances. And it's fundamental to how democracy functions. He pulled out a copy of the Constitution itself and held it high, as if reminding the audience that the real authority of the union is the text, not the listener. When I raise concerns about judicial ethics, whether at the federal or state level, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm doing Professor Mondani, you said I don't respect institutions. But respectfully, I think you may not understand what institutional work actually requires. And he still wasn't done. Mondani reached into the folder and pulled out one final document, one that would prove to be the decisive flow. We mentioned that real lawyers handle their business better than professionals. That's an interesting perspective, but it's not supported by either constitutional precedent or democratic necessity. That's an interesting perspective, Professor, Mondani said, not missing a beat. But it's not one supported by legal precedent. He looked at the referendum document. In the range of equality in 1927, the Supreme Court held that Congress, and by extension, legislative bodies, not only have the right, but the duty to investigate and expose government wrongdoing. The court stated clearly that legislative authority is the constitutional ultimate spirit Mondani, his expression explains his shock and laughing admiration. This wasn't what he had expected, not from a younger democratic socialist state legislature. He had anticipated corruption. He was getting a constitutional law seminar. Mondani continued, unwavering. So when I question judicial conflicts of interest, undisclosed gifts, or ethical lapses, he said, locking eyes with Dershowitz, I'm not grandstanding. I'm doing precisely what the Supreme Court says is necessary for democracy to function. Then, with a pivot as seamless as it was devastating, Mondani shifted from legal doctrine to social theory. His tone said, still respectful, but now undeniably true. Professor, your question was allow me to clarify it for you and for the audience. He held up a single sheet of paper, his resume. I graduated from Bowling College. I was a housing policy organizer before entering public service. I didn't inherit political clout or gain influence through elite institutions. I was elected by the people of Queens to fight for tenants, immigrants, and workers. And now I serve in the New York State Assembly, where I help write and shape the laws of one of the most populous states in the country. The contrast with Dershowitz's high-profile legal media career was becoming clearer with every word. My qualifications to speak about law and responsibility aren't built on television programs. They're built on real-world experience, real legal frameworks, and the trust of people. And then comes along with the echo across social media and law classrooms for weeks. You certainly don't understand the trust of institutions, Professor, Mondani said. But I don't think you really meant is that you expect deference to authority figures, regardless of whether that authority is earned or appropriate. I have deep respect for legitimate institutional authority. I respect judges who follow ethical codes. I respect scholars who challenge systems of intellectual honesty. I even respect media personalities when they stay in their lane. The implication was razor sharp, and the audience understood it instantly. But, Mondani added, respect for institutions does not mean blind obedience to those who merely claim authority without accountability. He paused, then delivered what would become the most quoted moment of the night. You criticize my generation for thinking we know everything, but the truth is we don't believe we know everything. We believe we know enough to ask the right questions of the right people at the right time. He gestured gently to the audience and the stage around him. You built your career holding people accountable. You demanded answers, challenged inconsistencies, and exposed contradictions. So tell me, Professor, how is what I'm doing any different? It was was devastating. Effectively, Dershowitz had grilled presidents, debated legal plans, and president conduct. But when the same scrutiny was applied to the institutions he revered, it suddenly became disrespect. Mamdani continued, calmly returning to his seat. When I ask hard questions, he said, I'm holding lifetime appointed judges and public officials accountable for decisions that affect millions of lives. He paused. When you ask hard questions, it's usually about someone's latest book deal or a headline-making court case. That's fine, but let's not pretend it's true. Then, as if saving his final breath, Mamdani leaned forward and delivered the line that brought the entire crowd to a breathless silence. You said earlier that you'd earn more money than most politicians could dream of. That may be true, but money is not how we measure success in public service. Mamdani leaned slightly forward, his voice quiet, but filled with unmistakable conviction. I could have gone into corporate law. I could have made more money in private practice, climbing the ladder at a white shoe firm. But I didn't. I chose public service because there were things more important than money. The hall fell completely silent. Even Alan Dershowitz seemed to sense that something deeper was happening now. Something bigger than just a debate. So when you question my qualifications or my methods, Professor, Mamdani said, turning fully to him, I want you to understand something. I'm not here for money or recognition or airtime. I'm here because our democratic framework requires oversight, and I take that responsibility seriously. For perhaps the first time in his long public career, Dershowitz was genuinely speechless. He sank slightly back into his seat, no longer defensive, just stunned. His expression softened into something halfway between surprise and reluctant respect. When he finally spoke, his voice had lost all its previous edge. Assemblyman, that was quite a response. The words were quiet, but everyone in the room heard them. Alan Dershowitz, the man famous for always having the final word, had just been out-argued by someone less than half his age. He hesitated, then added slowly, I think I may have underestimated you. Mamdani smiled slightly, not out of arrogance, but with the knowing weariness of someone who had heard that line many times before. Professor, he replied gently, that's been happening my entire career. I'm used to it. And with that, the room erupted. The audience, many of whom had come expecting Mamdani to be dismantled by the legendary legal icon, had instead witnessed something unprecedented. They had watched a young democratic socialist with constitutional knowledge and moral clarity dismantle a titan of American legal commentary. Not with disrespect, but with